Fantastic. I'm just gonna start off by saying thank you, Braxton, for being here. I really do appreciate you take time out of your schedule to come through and be a guest on the podcast. It really does mean a lot to have you here. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
It means a lot. I'm really excited about it. Actually, I was just taking time to look at your work before this and see what it is that you do, and it's. I can't wait to get into it. I can't wait for you to tell us more about what it is exactly. But I also just want to start and ask, how are you doing? How's been this year so far? Given what we've been going through globally, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And how's life?
Life is great, man. I'm a big fan of perspective. Something that I've been a big fan of for a long time. And what I mean by that is just um, just always making sure that you're constantly putting yourself in the shoes of perspective and knowing that, there's always someone that's got it worse than you, and there's someone who's always struggling more than you. There's we take a lot of things for granted day to day life, and I'm constantly just like reminding myself to be grateful of those things. So even if like you do hit a rough patch and stuff, because like everyone hits rough patches and stuff, I try to just stay as grateful as possible, because like at the end of the day, I get to do something that many people wish they could do for a living, and even if it's rough sometimes, it's still the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah, I think on that point of perspective, now that you've just actually mentioned it, and being grateful, what do you think is one of the things that you're most grateful for throughout your life that has a direct relation to your creativity and your creative journey?
Well, I'm really grateful, obviously, for my Chicago family here, Creative Club Chicago. Um, Eric, Bean, Mike, Gene, Steven, all of them, they have been so key to my creative journey and where I'm at today. I legitimately wouldn't be where I am without them, because Eric took a chance on me. Uh, I hopped on an Instagram live with him like 2.5 years ago at this point, I think, maybe even longer. And so I was raised in Mississippi, which is about 12 hours south of Chicago. I grew up in a very, very small rural country town, and we didn't have a lot of creative opportunity. And I was kind of getting by shooting weddings, but I was never in a position where I could scale or, build my business even bigger, or, basically have any aspirations at all. Like you basically couldn't, because you're too busy trying to get by paycheck to paycheck. And I hopped on Instagram live with him, and I was like, what do I do? And he was like, well, if you're serious about it, move to Chicago. But he said it kind of jokingly.
No
And
ways.
yeah, he said it jokingly. And then it was like 8 months later, I moved to Chicago. I just kind of
No
showed up.
ways.
I showed up at the studio door and I was like, hey, man, I'm here. I moved. And he was just like
Wow.
totally shocked that like I actually took that serious. And then it's kind of just been up from there. And then, of course, I had a lot of friends. Once I like started my creative journey and like told myself that I wanted to do this full time, like I had lots of friends that believed 100% in me and my art. Because as you've looked through my photos, doing work like that, it's kind of hard to find models. Either someone doesn't want to do it, or you have to pay for professional models. And when you're a broke photographer in a tiny country town, all you have is friends. And every single one of my friends was always down to model, always get in front of the camera and help me out in any way possible.
That's actually really cool, and I love that story. I was gonna ask more about this Chicago family that you guys have built, and
Yeah, and
it's
yeah, we could
super
definitely
cool.
dive deeper
Just
into that later.
yeah, just looking at it from the outside, seeing what it is that you guys are doing in terms of supporting each other, it's like a huge inspiration. And like you said, we can definitely jump more into that. But I want to focus on that aspect of having friends and family that like are really supportive, especially when you're starting off, and how important that is to have. And I know you already mentioned that you had super supportive friends, but I'm starting to think of people, creatives probably listening to this podcast who don't necessarily have friends or family who see the vision that they have, or really believe in what they're trying to do, what would you say to, people like that in positions like that, and what they can try and do to, keep moving forward and being able to reach their goals in the end?
I think, wow, that's such a loaded question because like so many things, so many things like go into it to like making it work. Everyone's different. At least for me, it was kind of like I I had two main things going into this. Was one, I wanted to do this full time. I did not want to go to a 9 to 5. I did not want to settle for some blue collar job because like when you're raised in the South, like at least in the US here, when you're raised in the South and you grow up in a very rural small town, you're expected to pick up a blue collar job, get married by 22, and have kids by 23, which I am getting married by 22. I get married next month.
Let's go! No ways!
Yeah.
Oh, congrats, bro. That's big.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Funny enough, but I did not want to follow that traditional path of getting a blue collar job and all of those things. So I had to do this full time. I wanted to do this every day because I loved photography and filmmaking more than anything. And so with that, I didn't give myself another option. I went to college for 2 years, but I went on an athletic scholarship and basically just played my sport, which was tennis, and hung out with my friends. I didn't take any serious classes. I took like general studies classes, just to like be eligible to play my sport. And so I just didn't give myself another option. I knew once I graduated college that this was it and I had to make this work. So if you're like me, oh wow, my voice just cracked. It's early in the morning here. If you're like me, then if you don't give yourself another option, if you don't give yourself a plan B, a backup option, you'll make it work. And I'm a firm believer in no matter what your situation is or where you live or anything, if you want something bad enough, it will happen. If you put in the work, you do all the necessary steps to put yourself in a position to succeed. You don't even have to know the keys or the industry secrets to be successful. As long as you're doing the things that put yourself in a position to succeed and you want it bad enough, it will happen.
Yeah. And
For
I love
sure.
that. I love that what you're saying so much. You're right. It's if you want something and you put the necessary steps into getting that thing, it will happen. And I see you a lot in that already, just from what you've told me, and you taking a chance for moving from home and going to Chicago. Like there was no actual guarantee that taking this chance was gonna lead you to where you are now. But it's not taking that leap of faith, putting yourself in a position where I'm gonna do what I can to the very best of my ability, and the rest, you just kind of like cross your fingers and have faith that it unravels, and it does, and it did for you, which is beautiful to see. Which is really beautiful to see. And I know you've spoken a little bit about it, and I wanted to tap on it now that you just mentioned it. It's just you growing up, how you grew up, and if this photography thing was like something you always wanted to be from when you were a young individual. I know I read a little bit about yourself, your bio, and how your family is creative, and I just wanted to ask a little bit about that. How your parents influenced your creativity.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
So I didn't like decide that or I didn't really get interested in like the arts, I guess is what you call it, or like the creative industry as a whole. I didn't really get interested in that until probably 15, 16. My mom is an extremely talented painter. Like till this day, one of the best painters I've ever seen in real life. She is like absolutely incredible. She doesn't do it for a living. She did for a little bit, but not anymore. And then my dad was, my biological father was a Broadway actor. So like he was like on Broadway and like the Washington Theater and other things. And he would like act in England as well. So I actually did come up from a pretty creative family. Um, with that being said, though, my parents split when I was little, and so like my dad was doing his thing in New York, and then my mom was working other jobs to make ends meet. So my parents, let's just say this, my parents didn't have the best experience with the creative industry, more so to do with their marriage than the actual creative industry itself. So it wasn't really pushed in my household. Like it definitely influenced me because like I was seeing the cool things that they were doing and I wanted to be in that space. Um, but it wasn't necessarily something where like my parents were like, "Oh, you should be a photographer or you should do this or you should do that." My parents actually they suggested and encouraged, getting a safe, practical job, just like any other set of parents would. They wanted me to like be safe financially and have a career, have a future, have retirement, all of those things. But they definitely influenced me in a sense of me getting my first look into what being a creative was. And that's actually like where I got my start was actually acting, because my dad was an actor and I wanted to be an actor like my dad. Um, so like even when I was younger, I didn't even think of acting as like a creative thing. It was just something that my dad did and I thought something that was really cool. So like I did all of the theater and all of the plays and stuff when I was little. And then growing up, I started taking it more serious and I was like going to acting workshops and all of these things and doing small gigs here and there. Um, but it got to the point that my mom was like, absolutely not. You are not being an actor. She really wanted me to, do something safe. And I even got to the point where I got accepted into an acting school.
Wow.
I filled
That
out
good.
I filled out
Wow.
I filled out all the paperwork and stuff behind my mom's back. I like submitted my application and everything. My mom had no idea. And then
No
I ca-
ways.
I came home from school one day to my mom holding a letter and she was like, "What in the world is this?" And
No
I
way.
was like and I was like shocked. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I got accepted." Um
That's what you're thinking.
yeah, I was like, "Holy oh my gosh."
Oh my
And
days.
yeah, and she was like, "Absolutely not. You're not doing this." And then like we had like a long sit down talk about it, and I ended up not going for other reasons as well. Not just my mother. But yeah, so that was like my start in the creative industry, and then like acting led to other things. Acting led to doing some things into the fashion world. Um, I at the time, Kanye West was really big, and that's when like Yeezy was starting to really take off, and I was like really inspired by Yeezy, and I was inspired by other brands that were popping off at the time, like small brands like Fool's Gold in New York and stuff. And I was like, sick, I want to do this. And so I did that for like a few years. I did that when I was like really into fashion when I was like 16, 17. Uh, and I ended up getting, I applied for FIDM, which is a fashion school out in LA. Um, LA or San Francisco, I can't remember. Uh, and I got offered a scholarship there.
No
Um,
ways, bro. What?
uh,
It's like
uh,
anything you touch is just gonna turn into gold, man.
well, it sounds better than what it actually was. They offered me a scholarship, but it was still going to cost a good bit of money, like cost of living out there and stuff and all those things. And as I was pursuing fashion, I started picking up I started picking up the camera to photograph whatever I was wearing next or whatever I was putting on other people. And, because like photography and fashion kind of go hand in hand. Uh, and so I got, and once you start picking up a camera and you start posting decent photos, people instantly start hitting you up. Like, hey, can you take my senior photos? Hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Uh, I'm totally getting off topic here. With
No,
questions.
you are on topic.
Yeah.
You are on track. That's what this podcast is about. It's about going off track and just expressing
Yeah.
ourselves. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Please do continue.
And so like photo was like going hand in hand with fashion, and I was doing it at the same time I was pursuing fashion, and so then like photography eventually just took over.
That's actually very beautiful, and I love how almost like everything in your life kind of just flows and unravels itself and unpacks itself and leads up to this like very moment. Especially the things that you kind of set your mind to and didn't really happen for you, and at the time you almost kind of feel like, without realizing what's coming, obviously you almost realize like this is the end, like this is what I really want, and I'm not getting any support, or it's not working, like what the heck, like what's next, and you kind of feel like that sometimes. But looking back at stories like that for me is encouraging for me now and in the future, when I set my heart to something and it doesn't work, and it's really like, you know what, I've gone through so much before, and I'm here now. I kind of didn't come all this far just to end up here. So there's definitely better things to come, and this is not the end. Almost kind of like pick yourself up and keep trying. So I love that. I love what you shared, and I also appreciate your vulnerability, and just sharing some personal stuff about your life. It's really beautiful, and I appreciate that. But you mentioned something, interesting about, parents wanting their children to pick something safe, something that's secure. And do you think that, we'll ever get to a time where people who want to pursue something of a creative nature, something that's not so generic, something that we're not used to seeing, uh, can those things actually be looked at and valued as, steady career options for individuals? And if we're not there now, how can we be able to get to a position where that's the understanding?
I From like a financial perspective, I think we will be there, and I think we'll be there rather soon. Um, but I think honestly, what I think is going to happen is that we're going to get to so like right now we're still kind of in that space of where like parents think that we need to get a safe blue collar job, to have a safe financially stable career. But I think now it's going to just switch to parents don't want their kids to do it because it's not healthy. We hear the horror stories every day of like creators, struggling with mental health and just being so overwhelmed by what being a creator brings along with it. And I'm not necessarily speaking into our niche specifically of photo and video, but you see so many of the influencers and stuff that it just gets really overwhelming and stuff, especially when you start young, and then like no one ever just treats you like a normal person. You'll always be that guy from YouTube or that girl on TikTok or so on and so forth. Um, so I think the perspective will change soon to just like parents wanting their children to be safe, which I totally agree with. Um, but I think that in terms of just the stigma around building a career from it, I think that stigma is dying very quickly, and I think it'll be gone soon because more and more parents, like even my parents, like did not think that I would be able to make it. Like even when I moved to Chicago, they were worried sick that like I wasn't going to be able to pay rent, and and now they don't worry about me a bit because I was able to prove to them that that this is very much a viable career option. You just have to put in the work. Um, so I think that stigma in particular is going away pretty quickly, and more parents every day are becoming more accepting of that.
Yeah, and I love that, and I do kind of just hope for a day where, parents can actually understand it and consider it as an option, and not just that, but even in schools, courses and options for kids who want to pursue that. They can start like, it doesn't have to be like an extracurricular activity that they have to do, but like really creative kind of things can start being nurtured at a young age, and uh, kids can have the option to explore the more academic side of life, the sports side of life, and the creative side of life. It'd be really nice to get to a point where the world kind of functions that way. But again, you keep mentioning very interesting things, and there's that concept of this thing becoming very overwhelming. Like being an influencer, being a content creator, especially one who consistently has to share their work on social media or otherwise, there's a certain pressure that comes with it. You have to deliver, and unfortunately you realize that if you don't deliver consistently, you are easily replaced by the next content creator, because there's so much of us now in that space. So there's almost like a slight pressure to always be consistent and always deliver what's trending, or whatever you may call it. So it's difficult, and it stresses some people out. But for you personally, how have you able to separate yourself from that pressure and try and maintain a steady mind, and continue to remain unique and consistent in the work that you produce?
Uh, so there's like a few ways that like I approach this in terms of just like having a healthy relationship with my art. Um, so one thing that I think that people in the photo and video niche in particular struggle with really bad is that they start to shoot and post things that will get the attention of other photographers and filmmakers, if that makes sense. Like we for somehow in like the social media age, we have like lost what I think that social media was intended for us at least, and that was for getting our work in front of as many eyes as possible and finding people that our work relates to. And we've kind of like I even caught myself falling into this trap of like I was curating my Instagram and posting photos that I knew that other photographers would like, that it would get the attention of other photographers and other filmmakers, because obviously we kind of hold a higher criteria to what we think is good versus a more casual photo video consumer. Um, and it got really unhealthy very quickly because I was constantly like trying to post what these other random photographers on Instagram and Twitter would like versus posting things that the general public would like. Um, if that makes sense. It's because, in my opinion, um, we can get a little too critical of other people's works. Like this social media in general has just kind of like um, conditioned us to view other people's work in this almost critical sense of like we're constantly like judging other people's art, and we're looking where they messed up or what they could have done different, or what I have done different if I would have taken this photo and things like that. um Whereas the general consumer just looks at it and appreciates it and resonates with it. And that was always the goal with my work and with the photos and videos that I make, is just helping people resonate with their own feelings and what they could feel through a photograph. And so, yeah, so one of the best things that I ever did was stopped making art for other photographers and filmmakers and started making art for myself and for just normal casual consumers to enjoy. And now this isn't really a problem with me anymore. It was for a little bit, but I know a lot of people struggle with balancing making money versus making art. Um, because the sad truth and like the sad reality of it is that anytime that your passion is also tied to your income, it's not always the best thing. Like that sounds really great, but once you have your livelihood depending on your passion, it turns less into a passion and more of work, whether you like it or not. I have a friend in Dallas, Jake Wenger. He's a tremendous photographer. He's one of the best photographers I know, and he works a normal 9 to 5 at a college because he said that he could no longer have his art tied to his income because it was ruining his relationship with his art, which I find very inspiring. And as I get older, the less and less I care about doing this full time. When I was younger, I was like so determined to, be a full time photographer, be a full time filmmaker. I wanted to do this every day. And as I get older, the more I realize that I don't have to have my income tied to my art in order to be an artist. I don't have to, do all these business things in order to create the things I want to create. It's okay to, get your real estate license and take photos on the weekends. It's okay to go get this job and work a job that gives you insurance and health benefits and stuff, and create art in your free time.
Okay, I do want to know. I do want to ask why you've chosen to focus on film photography and making films specifically as a creative outlet. There's so many different types of photography and so many ways to present your photography, but you've chosen film, and I want to know why. I've looked at your work, and it's absolutely amazing. It's kind of made
Thank
me
you.
feel like I should take up film. But then
Yeah, man.
I've also watched your podcast, and then you've said it's very expensive. It could
Yes,
leave
it
me
is
broke.
very expensive.
So yeah, tell me about your journey in picking up film specifically, and what's that journey, what that journey has been like.
Yeah, so I guess it starts with my grandfather. My grandfather was a wedding photographer for several years, like I think like 20, 25 years he was a wedding photographer. Um and he started in the early 80s and went all the way up until like 2003 when the first digital camera came out, or people started switching over to digital, I think. Um So when I got interested into photography, and so first person I tell is obviously my grandfather. Um, and for Christmas that year, he gifted me a Nikon F3. Now, anyone who's fairly educated into the film space, everyone knows that the Nikon F3 is a legendary 35 millimeter camera. So I was very blessed to, uh, have that just like right off the bat. And I got that at the same time that I got a digital camera. I got a digital camera and a film camera for Christmas that same year. Because I asked my parents for a camera for Christmas, and because I was taking photos on my mom's camera, and that exact Christmas, my grandfather just surprised me with one of his film cameras that used to shoot weddings. He shot weddings on 2 Nikon F3s all day. And he gave me one of those, and I was just at first I was just I would it was just drawn I was just drawn to the film camera. I just thought it was way cooler. Um and so I started taking photos on that before I started taking photos on my digital camera, really. But at the time, I didn't know that you could like take film to like a normal film lab and stuff. The only place I knew that developed film was Walmart and Walgreens. Uh, so like I would shoot a roll, and then I would like go take it to Walmart or Walgreens, but they don't develop film anymore.
Wow.
So they'd have to ship it off to a lab, but it would take like a month
Oh my
for
goodness!
for the
No
film to get
ways.
back. I'm not kidding. One time I brought film to
What?
Walmart, and it took 3 months to get my roll back. um,
What?
yeah. So I was like, screw this. I'm not waiting this long for photos. So that's when like I picked up my digital camera, but um, I shortly thereafter I was doing both. Like I would shoot film more for fun, but I was shooting digital for more paid work. But like those early days of me picking up a camera, I learned to shoot on a film camera. Um, and so from there, I basically just kind of like let it sit on the shelf for a few years. Just because like I was like, as my business was starting to grow and I was shooting more and more paid work, I did not trust myself with a film camera to, shoot paid work. So it, and then so probably about a year and a half ago, I picked up film again. So I took like a 2 year break from film, 2 years, something like that. And then about a year and a half ago, I picked up film again. Again, shooting it more casually. I wasn't shooting any paid work. And then once I moved here to Chicago, um, I was doing other things, and I had some time I had some time on my hands basically. And I was like, well, if I have all this time, like I might as well just shoot more film, because that's like film was like my healthy escape from digital photography, because like digital photography was feeling like work at that time. And so shooting film was more of like my escape, my passion, and what like really kept my love for photography going. And so I just kept shooting film. And then once you start shooting a lot with film, you then like people are like, "Oh, you shoot film? Will you come take my portraits?" It's kind of like the same process as when you've like first learning photography. People are like, "Oh, can you take my senior portraits? Can you do this? Can you do that?" And so like when you start shooting film, it was kind of the same process of people are like, "Oh, I'm getting engaged. It would be really cool if you shot it on film." Um, and then like small businesses were like, "Oh, we're a trendy whatever cafe. We would love for you to come, take some product photos on film." And so it kind of went from there. But why I specifically choose film now is, for me at least, and I'll quote the great Jason Lee, uh, to be a photographer to me is to be an analog photographer. It's just like I'm so in love. This sounds so like cliche film photographer, but I'm so in love with the process that film brings. Like every step of it, from like loading up a roll into the back of your camera, whipping out your light meter, actually reading a light meter, actually looking at your scene and judging exposure from your light meter, and those things, to I actually self-develop all of my film as well, and I scan all of my film myself. So
What's that process like? How
I'm
long does it take to like process a photo?
so what we do is that once you shoot a roll, you load it up onto these like plastic reels. I have some sitting over here. Um you load them up like onto a reel, so you like spool up all the film onto this plastic reel, and then you put it into this like plastic tank, and then you go through a series of chemicals. So I can develop 5 rolls of 35 millimeter or 3 rolls of medium format, and it takes about the whole entire process takes about 20 minutes ish. Yeah, so I have my hands on every step of the process, and it's just something that I really, really enjoy. Even the things like you have to wait to see your photos. You don't get that instant gratification of looking at the back of your camera. I have to go shoot the photos and then go develop it and scan it to see what it really looks
What
like.
it looks like? Yeesh.
Um, yeah, but it's such a rewarding process, and it's such a fun process that I don't I don't really care to shoot digital anymore at all. Now, if I'm shooting a job that it makes more sense to shoot digital, I will. But I'm just so in love with the process that film brings along, that it's just I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Wow, that's beautiful. And you mentioned something. It's like it's so rewarding and it's so fulfilling, and that's what I hope for. Like every kind of content creator, any kind of creative individual, just anyone doing anything in life. If you've chosen to do something, that it can be rewarding and fulfilling. And it was just talking. It just reminds me as well something you mentioned a little bit earlier about making content for people and trying to get likes, trying to get follows, and I was definitely like that as well when I started, and it wrecks you. It like really messes you up until I had to just sit myself down and think, remember why you started to do this thing in the first place. It's because it makes you happy. It's because it's fulfilling, because it's an escape. So hearing you say that and just knowing that you found that for yourself, that's absolutely beautiful. And I'm really happy for you. And I just hope it can continue to bring that kind of joy to you throughout the rest of your life. But commercially, as someone who sells this product that is film, that is photography, that is art, how do you try and be unique and different from everyone else in the market? Like I said earlier, and like we all know clearly, there's so many of us now on the planet, in the market. Just like your next door neighbor could be a photographer fighting to take photos for the wedding down the street. So like, how do you how do you remain unique? How do you market yourself in a way that, attracts people and separates you from the rest of the pack?
So for one, now I don't necessarily do this. I did for a little bit, but I quickly changed my mind. And this might sound a little contradictory to what I said a second ago of like marketing yourself as a film photographer, but I don't really market myself as a film photographer. Um, I mean, like I'm open about it and I'm very open about my process and, being a film photographer and all of those things, but I'm not shouting into the void that, oh, I take my photos on film. Um, so I like to think of myself more as just a photographer that happens to shoot film versus a film photographer. Um, Now I think it's extremely hard. Like no matter what you do, I think it's going to be extremely hard to stand out. Like the market is like extremely saturated at this point.
Very,
So
very.
like so much so. So I at least in the past year, I've taken less of a marketing myself stance and more of a rising tide brings up all the ships point of view. Because I'm so blessed to be in Creative Club Chicago and co-work alongside all of my best friends in the industry. Um, we've all kind of just taken the stance that if we're all just consistently working hard and working to lift each other up, then we're going to be able to stand out because of that. Um, I don't have to necessarily, be posting on Instagram 3 times a day and on Twitter 5 times a day and like doing all these crazy marketing things that a lot of creators in this space will do. Instead, we all together just constantly are including each other in other projects. Um, and then just like constant, like if you watch our YouTube videos, we're me, Steven, and Gene and Eric, we're constantly in each other's videos and
Literally.
stuff. And yeah,
Literally.
really. So we're just constantly putting each other right beside ourselves, and again, rising tide brings up all the ships. So it's very nice to be able to be in a place where I don't have to necessarily fight for myself when I have others fighting for me as well. Um, and it's more fulfilling that way as well because you're constantly being able to hang out and work and you know uh, be with your friends as well. But touching back a little bit to what I said earlier, now this is my personal opinion. Other people might disagree, and that's totally fine. Um, because a lot of film photographers are marketing themselves as film photographers, which is totally fine. Like you do what you want to do. Um, but at least for me and my identity, I don't want to be known as the film photographer. I just want to be known as a great photographer that
Mm.
people really resonated with my work and I happened to
To
shoot
shoot
film.
film. I
You
love
know,
the way you
I
put that. Yeah.
I think one of the best examples of that is two people actually is Sam Damashek and Tyler Shields. They're both incredible photographers in Los Angeles. Two people that I really look up to a lot. They're very open about shooting film, and they're very open about their process and stuff. But they're not, they don't have film photographer in their bio. They're not shouting into the void. Hashtag Portrait 400. I mean, like we all do that. Um,
uh,
like we all do that every once in a while. It's like again, like you do whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy. They're more just photographers that happen to shoot film, and I think there's something beautiful about that they haven't wrapped their identity around this singular thing. You know, they've kind of left their identity pretty open stance so that whatever the next job comes around or whatever opportunity comes around next. Some people aren't going, oh, that's the film guy. They go, oh, that's Tyler Shields, you know? Um, so, and I also look at some of the great filmmakers of the world. Like people don't think of Christopher Nolan as the director who shoots IMAX film, not the guy who shoots 70 millimeter. 70 millimeter film. They think of Christopher Nolan as the guy who created Inception and
Literally.
Interstellar and stuff, or like And now like Quentin Tarantino is a little bit more hardcore. He says that digital was the death of cinema. Um, but I think of all these great people and all these accomplished people in the industry that have been able to do what they do with film. And I really look up to them because, again, at the same time, they're doing all these things on film, but they're not necessarily wrapping their identity up in
Around
film.
that. Yeah.
They're not wrapping their identity around a singular medium or thing. So that's just the stance that I take on those things. Again, people might disagree with me, and that's totally okay. Like I'm very much a whatever makes you happy and whatever you feel like you need to do to succeed, please do. We're all just trying to pay our bills and do this every day.
Yeah, I think it's a personal stance that you definitely share with a lot of people, and I think myself included. It makes so much sense to not constrict yourself. I think you limit yourself from a lot of opportunity, and even realizing potential abilities that you had never actually tested out. In the sense that if you do, just market yourself as this one thing, if people are looking for a certain thing because you identify yourself as, the person who does only product photography, if it's a wedding, if it's nature, or if it's real estate, they're not really going to approach you because you've labeled yourself that one thing. But I think if you keep yourself open, and as someone who does photography just generally, you actually realize that when you are called to do real estate photography, you might actually realize how good you are, even though it wasn't something that you'd ever considered. And it allows you to spread your wings. It allows you to just network more as well. So I definitely resonate, and I definitely share in your perspective and in your way of thinking. It's really beautiful. And just to bring it back again to something we've already spoken about, and I think it's about time we speak about it, and it's that Chicago family of yours. I love so much, again, like I said already, what you guys are doing. Being able to like you said, build this thing where if one person's winning, then we're all winning. Especially in a industry or in a community where everybody's trying to get the bread first. Every other photographer is trying to get the job before the next photographer. So if you've got a group of people who are like-minded and who share the struggle, who understand what's going on, and the main idea here is to lift each other up, you're in a winning team. You're definitely in a winning team. And just to put some real life perspective on that, I actually reached out to Eric, and I was like, I like your work and I like what you guys are doing, and I'd love you on the podcast. And he's like, I really can't do any right now because I'm doing a lot. And he just threw all your guys' names in there. He's like, these are my people, at the studio. Reach out to them. I'm pretty sure some of them might be keen and interested. So that idea of just knowing that someone's got your back, is amazing. It's beautiful. And I just want to hear and hopefully learn on more about what this family is, its inception, where it is now, and where it is kind of going.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to join this family about a year ago at this point. Um, I've been friends with them for uh, close to 2 years at this point, I think. But when I finally moved, um, it's just they're legitimately everything to me. Especially someone like when you grow up in a really small town, you get really close to your family, and I'm still really really close to my family to this day. Um, and then I also moved 12 hours away from my fiance as well, which was really tough. Yeah, because she was still finishing college while I finished. So I graduated, and she still had 2 more semesters of college. So I went ahead and moved up here. Um, and when I say they've been family, they've been nothing short of family to me. Like, they legitimately took me. They took me under their wing, and they helped me grow in every way possible. And they've already taught me so much, and they've just helped me in every way. I don't know what I would do without them, to be honest with you. It's such a unique and blessing to have, to be able to just like wake up and go to a studio space in Chicago where 5 other of your best friends work at. And yeah, and then like this year in particular, me, Gene, Steven, and Eric have all been pursuing YouTube heavily together, and that's been such a fun process being able to work alongside them on that. And we're constantly, helping each other out with videos, and we're constantly in each other's videos and stuff. But yeah, and then if it wasn't for them being so supportive of me, I don't even know if I would have moved, because so I hopped on that Instagram live with Eric. It was very early into the pandemic. It was like right when lockdown first started in like I think it was March of 2020.
Were you
Um
friends with Eric then?
well, before that, I was more of just like a fan of his YouTube channel, and I had his Patreon. I was a subscriber to his Patreon and stuff, and we had DM'd a few times. I talked to him on Patreon, and like small things like that. Like we knew of each other and stuff. But it wasn't until I got to hop on that Instagram live with him, and I was just like, "Hey man, like I'm stuck here in Mississippi and I don't know what to do. Like there's no ability to scale. There's no real creative opportunity down here. I'm just shooting wedding to wedding, surviving paycheck to paycheck. Like if I ever want a family, I'm never going to be able to support them with this. But I'm also not giving myself a plan B, as I said earlier.
I want this thing.
So like I want this thing
Mm.
so badly. What do I do? And not taking me very seriously, he said, "Move to Chicago." I think his exact words were, "If you came to Chicago, we would take care of you." But even he will say that like he was not taking me very seriously, because every fan of a YouTuber and stuff will say they'll do whatever to get to that level to make it happen, but like few people actually follow through. So that happened in March, and then I was able to have a conversation with Samuel Elkins. I don't know if you know him or not. He's a photographer out in LA. A few months after that call, I was able to hop on a phone call with Samuel Elkins, and we were just talking about the industry and stuff. And I kind of asked him the same thing of like, I don't know what to do. And he basically told me, you just need to get off your butt and do it. Because like I was doing a lot of talking, I was doing a lot of asking questions, a lot of messaging people, but I wasn't taking any actual action. And so after we had that conversation, he really set a fire under me, and I messaged Eric immediately, and I was like, "Can I come visit?" And he was like, "Yeah, totally." And so I went and visited Chicago, and right off the bat, I became best friends with everyone. Just like I was able to just like fit right into what they were already trying to build, and I became best friends with everyone immediately. And then I was like, okay, sick, I'm moving. And again, they still weren't taking me very seriously, because it's such a large task to move 12 hours away from your home,
It
especially
is.
when you
Yo.
especially when you don't have a lot of money like me
Mm.
at the time. Um, and so that visit happened in October of 2020. And then, um, and then I showed up the next year. I think I came and visited one more time. But I showed up that next year, and I got an apartment right down the street from the studio here at Creative Club Chicago. And I walked in the studio and I was like, "Hey, I moved." And everyone was like, "What?" Um,
What? Crazy.
Yeah. And they like legitimately have taken care of me ever since. Like when I moved here, um, after paying to move all of my stuff 12 hours to Chicago, and then paying like the security deposit and like first month's rent and all of those things here in Chicago, and then like taking care of the rest of the stuff that I had to pay for down south in Mississippi. I showed up my first day at the studio. I showed up with $130 in my bank account, and
No
I had
ways.
I had $130 to my name, and I had and like all my family kept asking me, "Are you okay? Do you need money? Do you need anything?" I was like, "No, I'm fine. I got this," because like I was determined to make this happen on my own. I did not want, I did not want my mom to give me money to pay rent until I could get off my feet. Like I was going to make this happen. If I was going to if I was going to force myself down this career path, if I was going to be the stubborn one that did not go and get a safe job, that means that like I also have to take care of myself. I'm not going to burden someone else with taking care of me after, I did something that's not inherently a safe thing to do. Um, so I showed up with $130 in my pocket, and I was like, I'll do whatever. Just put me to work. And I ended up being Eric's editor for a while. I edited for Eric for um I think like a good like 4 or 5 months, I think. And then at that point my business had already started to really, really grow here in Chicago. And it got to the point that like I just couldn't do both. And me and Eric decided that it was best that we part ways when it comes to working together. But we're still like the best of friends, and I still basically owe my life to Eric. Without him telling me to move to Chicago, I would have never moved. And then of course with the rest of my Creative Club family, supporting me, supporting my business, and helping me out so much along the way, I would not be where I am today.
That is amazing. It's such a beautiful
Mm.
story,
Yeah. And
honestly,
I could talk about them for hours because I
yeah,
just like I
and
love them so much, so dearly.
yeah, and I definitely got a little bit more questions about them, but it's just crazy for me. Just I'm just hearing you say how you just got up and you did what had to be done, and I know it's easier said than done, right? Yeah, I just get up, just when I have the opportunity, I'm gonna grab my things and I'm gonna leave. But I'm really thinking about myself personally, and I'm thinking, would I be able to do that? Would I be able to leave my family? Would I be able to leave my fiance and just be away from family and just start building from the ground, building a clientele, building a network, and really, like you're saying, forcing myself into this career path until it works. But you did it. And for me, knowing that you can do it is like an inspiration, like uh, that I can do it as well, So I appreciate what you've done and what you've gone through, and then being able to share that as well, and be able to inspire other people to, take that leap of faith and put that work in, put that energy into making their dreams come true. It's really a beautiful story. I appreciate it so much. Yeah, and what's the Creative Club Chicago really about? Like, what is it that you guys are trying to build? What is it that you guys are involved in, and where is it would you guys love to see this thing grow and end up and become?
I mean, I think the goal with Creative Club Chicago was always just to be this one big family of creators.
Okay.
Creative Club Chicago was built on community and building community, and that's something that like we always want to extend to other people. Um, I look at it as just like Creative Club Chicago is community, and we're always having new people come to the studio to come hang out and talk, and we're always willing to help anyone out in any way possible. um yeah, we're just a big family of creators, and we're just always looking to help each other out, help other people out. That's why me, Eric, Steven, and Gene in particular have this year we decided that we wanted to pursue YouTube heavily, was so that we could just extend that family even
Even
more
wider.
and
Yeah.
even wider, build community even further, not just build community here in Chicago, but build community throughout the country and throughout the world, make more friends, make cool things. So that's really what Creative Club Chicago is. It's just community, and constantly building that, and making new friends.
Yeah, and I mean, you've now mentioned YouTube a couple times, and I want to ask about
Yeah.
that. Specifically your YouTube channel, and I just realized it's a very young channel. It's not too old, and you're still growing, and you're still working on it. But I love your content. I love your presentation. You obviously have a lot of experience. Working with the people that you work with. Your work is top tier. It's beautiful. It's presented well. The audio, the lighting, the story, everything that's gone into it is absolutely amazing. But tell me what exactly that it is that you're trying to do with your channel, and is it going to be focused on film, or like what is it that we can expect from you?
Yeah, so it is a very young channel. before this year, I'd only posted like 2 or 3 videos, and so I deleted all of those and just wanted to start fresh. I wanted to do YouTube for the past 2 years, but I'm the world's worst when it comes to being a perfectionist to a video, and I would always go film a video, and then I would get into the edit, and I'm like, "This is not what I wanted it to be," and I would just delete it and never post anything.
No way.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
like, I started the year with, like, 30 subscribers, and it's grown very quickly, which, I'm so thankful for already, and it definitely helps, constantly being in other people's videos and being helped out by Eric, Steven, and Gene. Um, but yeah, I make film related content and filmmaking related content, mostly film right now, but I have a lot of filmmaking content coming soon because of that's a whole other part of my life. Um, YouTube has been really fun, and it's been really fun pursuing it together with your friends. The goal really with the channel always was just to just another way that I can share my process, my art, the way that I like to do things, and hopefully it can help someone out in the process. As you can probably tell just from this interview, I'm a very open book.
Yes, you are,
Um,
and it's a
I'm
beautiful
ve- I'm
thing.
a very I'm a very transparent person because when I was growing up and I was listening to these podcasts, trying to learn as much as possible, there's too many times that like I would listen to a creator and it just felt like they were being very shallow and they were holding a lot back. So like I try to be as transparent as possible because that's what helped me. Um, but that's really the goal with the channel is just to, put some fun things out there and if people resonate with it, that's amazing. You know, it's for some people it might be more of a business venture and
Yeah, most people
it's de-
actually.
yeah. It's definitely I mean, like, I would be naive to say that it's not a business venture for me. Like, it's like YouTube in itself is a business, and if you're going to pursue it seriously, you have to treat it as such. Um, but for me, it's just another way that I can share my passion and what I love and what I do and just trying to connect with more people and still like just like what we do here at Creative Club Chicago is just building more community and making more friends in this space. um and yeah,
I,
so
I love it. I've definitely spent considerable amount of time on your YouTube channel already,
thank
and
you.
I've already marveled and
Hmm.
fanboyed at how clean and amazing your work is. So
Thank you.
I
and it
can't.
de- and it I'm sorry.
No, you can speak. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. No, I was just going to say really quickly and it definitely helps for like someone who like anyone who gets discouraged like when they see like my first 3 videos and like my first 3 videos or like my first 5 videos whatever like not trying to like be like very egotistic here but my 5 videos are probably a lot better than most people's first 5 videos.
They are.
Usually people's first 5 videos are a lot less put together but I had insane amounts of help from Eric, Steven, and Gene. And when I edited Eric's YouTube videos for a couple months when I first moved here to Chicago. So I got to learn so much and see what does work, what doesn't work, how to light a talking head, how to do audio, um, what works for YouTube, what doesn't work for YouTube, like structuring a video so that it's constantly entertaining and stuff. I had lots and lots and lots of help. That was not just me picking up a camera one day and making
And just
decent
being
videos
good
right
at
off
it.
the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's encouraging. That's good piece of advice to know because like we already spoke about earlier, when you jump into the space initially, you kind of looking at other people's work and you're like, I want to get to that level and I want to be where he is. And you sometimes forget, you really realize the amount of work that's gone into them being there to begin with, the kind of journey they've taken, the amount of years they've put in, the amount of money and time that's been invested in allowing their skill to be where it's at. So I think the whole journey is a process, and it's just a good reminder to know that you need to put the time in. Just be patient with yourself, and you will get to where you want to be, or you will get to where everybody else is, only in good time. It's just a matter of being consistent
Yeah,
and,
for
and, and
sure.
picking yourself up when you fall down sometimes.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, sweet. So what I want to know, what I want to ask you, I've just really heard a lot about you and your creativity, and what I'm realizing is you really didn't go to school for these things. They just kind of came with you, and you're naturally just kind of drawn to these things, which is amazing. But what do you think? And I know a lot of people have gone to school for things creatively. They haven't been necessarily good at it naturally, or just straight off the bat. They've gone to school, they've been educated, they've taken courses, and they've become a great, creative people from that. But do you think that creativity is something that comes naturally, or it's something that's more nurtured, taught, learned, and things like that?
I think it can be both. I think that it really depends on who you are as a person and where you are in your creative journey, and there's many factors that go into it. For me, at least, I was blessed enough that creativity kind of came pretty naturally to me. And I'm still to this day a creative that like relies a lot on what feels good versus what someone tells me what to do or what I should do. Um, so I really think it depends on you as a whole. Uh, but I think it can definitely be both. I think, I've seen people who come from a very non-creative background um at all, and now they're like killer creatives and they kill it in this space. And then I've also seen people who just like are born with Picasso's brush, like some
That's true.
like some people just have that thing, and I
Like your
think
mom.
yes, like my mom was a self-taught painter, and like till this day,
Mm,
like one of the best painters I've ever seen in my life.
wow.
Um, so it really can be both, and I think together is where something really special happens, where you already have when you already have a knack for creativity and you already have these ideas that you want to do, and you get the gears rolling and stuff, and then you have a great support system around you that can nurture that creativity and really push you to your potential, you know? So I think either or can definitely be the case, but it's together when something really special happens and when you can really like reach your potential.
I love that. I love you sharing that because I think I can learn a lot from that. Just looking at myself and how I've sort of approached it. I've never liked school. Just the concept of school in general is just like, what the heck? What is this prison? I'm paying these people to put me under stress. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Now for college in particular, I will say this. If you're contemplating whether or not you need to go to school for a creative field, um I received the best advice about college from Gary Vee. Now, whether you like Gary Vee or not, it's totally up to you. Gary Vee actually Gary Vee actually helped me out a lot, like growing in this space and like what I wanted to do. Um, I was like an avid watcher of him for years. He because like I was really struggling with the choice of do I go to college or not, because like I know I want to do this full time, but like my family's shouting at me to go to college, and then like you always have this little bit of fear in the back of your head, like what if it doesn't work out? Then I have no backup plan and stuff. And Gary Vee basically said, if you have the privilege, or the ability to go to college, go to college. If you can go to college without taking out student loans and breaking the bank and putting yourself in debt forever, go to college. It's not going to hurt you. Be patient. Like it's 4 years or 2 years if you go to a community college or junior college. Um, you only have upside there. You're not going to hurt yourself by going to college unless you take out massive amounts of loans and debt. Um, Now, if you don't have that ability, then don't go. And then you make your creative field work, or you make whatever you want to do work. And so again, as I said earlier, I had an athletic scholarship to a junior college with, fortunately enough, a lot of my other friends in the tennis community also got recruited by the same college. So me and all my friends all ended up going to the same college, and my athletic scholarship covered almost everything. So I had the unique privilege to be able to go to 2 years to college for free, basically, and it was the and I till this day I don't regret it a bit, those 2 years were the best 2 years of my life. Like, I legitimately got to live with my best friends and play the sport that I grew up playing every day. And so my if you would have asked me before college, I would have like, no, don't go to college. College is a scam. Don't do all these things. Like, you don't need college to be a creator, and you don't. But I am much more open-minded to college now than I was, before college, because college was such a amazing experience for me. Now, I didn't do anything. I took general study courses because I was already shooting full-time during college. And I knew this was what I was going to do, but I had the unique privilege of going to college for basically free. And so I went for 2 years. So that's my advice to anyone else, is that if you have the opportunity to go to college without putting yourself in debt, then by all means go to college, because you're not going to hurt yourself or your creative field by going to college. Like, cameras aren't going to disappear tomorrow, Lord willing. So
Hopefully.
like, yeah, so like, you're fine. You're fine. You can be patient and go to college, and it might end up being some of the best years of your life.
Now, I hold on to that a lot, and like a lot of people, for me, it didn't make sense. I just didn't understand, why I needed to go to college, and I was so close to pulling out just before I started, because I wanted to chase this creative thing. I sat down with my parents, and I just told them, I just take out that deposit, I'll pay it back to you in like a year. Obviously, just not understanding how so much more difficult it would be to build a business. But they sat down with me, and they shared with me and explained the different aspects and some of the things that you're mentioning about how college just helps you grow. Aside from the things that you actually study, the exposure that you get to interact with people, to just kind of build your people skills and things like that. It's unmatched, and there's nothing that you can really compare it to. And then over and above that, the kind of network that you can build from that, for that business that you're trying to build as well. So there's a lot of benefits that come with it. And the advice that you got from Gary Vee that you're now giving to me is absolutely amazing. I think I'm going to hold on to that. And my mind is definitely slowly shifting and changing from looking at college and university as something that's negative, and slowing my process down to getting to where I need to be. But looking at it more as something that's a tool and an aid in actually getting me to where I need to be, even if it's not directly linked to what it is that I want to do. So I appreciate you sharing that. It means a lot. Yeah. And then I also just wanted to ask about it's I have to mention it because it's smack dab in front of your Twitter bio and your Instagram bio, and it's Jesus. And that really, grabbed my attention. Being someone who appreciates what he's done and what he did, what he continues to do in my life as well. And just ask about, just personally, how that relationship is for you with him.
Yeah. So I am a believer in Jesus. I am, in my opinion, I am nothing without my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I would never be where I am without him and my faith. It's just such a big part of my life, that it's just like, Jesus is just part of me and part of my identity. And so that's why, like, I have it everywhere. It's just so that, if people come across my profile and, they may be a believer themselves, they can see that they have someone else out there in this space, with the same faith as them, because like it can feel fairly empty sometimes when you don't have anyone else to look up to that shares your faith. Now, no, not saying to be derogatory to any other creators who aren't by any means. But it's just like with anything else, you look for people to look up to that share the same values and beliefs as you. And that's something that was always important to me growing up. And so that's why, like, I have it everywhere, so people can, they can find that safe place with me as well. But yeah, Jesus has played such a huge part in my life, and I'm a firm believer that I would not be where I am without my relationship with Christ. And he has laid the path for me to where I am now and where I'm going in the future.
Mm. I share that. I feel the same way. And you're right. It can feel a little bit lonely. It can feel like, yo, I'm in this big old space and trying to do this big crazy things. Is there anybody out there who understands, how difficult it is sometimes to be, a believer of Jesus Christ in this space? And then, just you being able to put that out there and kind of like a calling call, like, yo, I'm out here, I'm there, we're together in this. It's beautiful. And when I was just like going through your work, going through your social media pages, I definitely felt warm. Just kind of seeing that there, which was beautiful. And I thought I'd just ask, and thank you for sharing. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, I think in terms of the straight up conversation podcast questions that I have, that's about it for now. I do have 5 questions that I'm going to ask, which are would you rather questions, just to see how you think when you're given 2 options. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule again. Thank you for your vulnerability. You're really raw, really straight to the point, and you don't get that often. And I just like encourage you to stay that way. It's very unique characteristic that you have, and in terms of building this community that you guys are trying to build around your Chicago family, it's going to be a characteristic that's going to attract some really amazing people. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Yeah, so I've got five more would you rather questions. Just to some of them are a bit ridiculous, but let's see how you think. So the first one is, would you rather give up air conditioning forever, or give up air conditioning and heating forever, or give up the internet forever?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, my job kind of relies on the internet a decent bit, and so I think I would probably have to go air conditioning and heating.
Yeah, because then you can always light a fire and you can always wear a jacket.
Yep.
Okay, the second one is, would you rather have a maid or a personal chef?
Personal chef, by far.
Do you not like cooking?
I love cooking, but I also understand that I am capped in my cooking abilities. I am not the next Iron Chef America or something. So if I could just have someone cook
Gordon
for me,
Ramsay,
that would be amazing. Especially if they could cook like really good food. Heck yeah.
Nah. It takes a big man to admit that you're not a great cook,
I mean, I'm definitely like a fine cook, but like when it comes to like, making something that my mom would or something, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, no one can make food the way mom
no
makes
one
food,
can make food the way mom does. So
yeah. Okay, so the next one is, would you rather, what did I type? Oh, my bad.
You're good.
Okay, would you rather I'm so sorry. Okay, would you rather spend the rest of your life in a sailboat as a home, or would you rather spend the rest of your life in an RV?
RV. Sailboat would be really sick, and that's something I've actually wanted to do, was like spend an extended period of time like on a sailboat out in the ocean on the water. But no, an RV, like just being able to like go everywhere, take photos, and just sleep wherever you want to. Like that sounds incredible.
I would definitely pick the RV.
Yes.
Because I'm just personally afraid of what the water can do to me.
Yes.
When it gets crazy. Okay, 2 more. The fourth one is, would you rather have an easy job and work for someone else, or work for yourself and just work incredibly hard every day?
Work for myself. Working for myself now has been such a blessing, and I'm extremely ADHD. I have really bad ADHD, and I learned from a very young age. I had a job. I got my first job when I was like 12 or 13, working for a landscaper, and I would work in people's yards and stuff. I learned very quickly that working for other people was not for me. I have a very hard time focusing and staying on task at hand, and working for yourself, I have the unique privilege of being able to lean into whatever I'm feeling at the time. If I wake up in the morning, like, what, I'm going to watch a movie this morning and I'm going to work in the afternoon, I can do that.
I love that.
I can do that.
I love that so much.
If but if it's like, okay, I need to work 14 hours, I can, or if I work for, if I work hard for 4 hours and I need to take a break, I can take a break. I don't have someone breathing over my shoulder telling me what I can and can't do. So definitely work for myself.
Yeah, I love that you realized it at a young age where you are and how you kind of function best, because a lot of people go through life without realizing it and kind of force themselves into a space where they work for someone, but they just don't realize that all they need to do is just like kind of try and find their own thing,
Yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
super glad you realized that. I just have one more, and then we can wrap it up. And the last one is: would you rather have unlimited international first class tickets to wherever, unlimited, right? Or never have to pay for food at any restaurant in the world ever?
Ooh, that's tough. I that dude, that is tough. Well, I mean, like, I feel like if you got free food wherever you went, then you would have all this extra cash to travel wherever you wanted to.
Really? Can you save that much on food to be able to buy plane tickets to wherever you want to go?
Man, dude, food is expensive, especially here in Chicago. I mean, if you're eating 3 meals a day every day, then like, I don't know, man, that's tough. Cause like on the other flip side, like you can travel wherever.
I love to travel. I love to travel.
I love to travel too. Don't get me wrong, but you're not constantly traveling, but you're constantly eating. So like, I still feel like I would take free food wherever I went.
Free food at any restaurant. Hey, imagine the kind of restaurants you can eat at though. Like, oh, that'll be nice. I think I definitely go for the international first class. Oh, tickets anyway. That's the one I'm taking.
Nah, man, people don't like traveling with me because I buy cheap plane tickets. I will gladly sit middle seat all the way in the back of the plane.
I am that guy. The point is to get to where we're going, right?
I'm a point A to point B kind of guy. I could care less about sitting first class and drinking champagne.
Literally. I love that. That's how you save money on good gear.
You got that right.
That's how you save money on good gear. No, but Braxton, I really appreciate it, man. It's been such a pleasure, such an honor to have a member of the Chicago Club, Creative Club Chicago, on the podcast. It's really amazing. I can't wait to see you guys continue to grow and continue to build your network and your family and continue strong. I wish you all the best for your wedding as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been an interesting process having to plan your own wedding versus planning other people, coming from a wedding photography and filmmaking background. But yeah, I'm super excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Are you gonna take your own photos at your wedding?
No. I will be taking photos at my wedding. But I'm fortunate enough that my entire Chicago family is coming down to photograph it for me. So I don't have to worry about that, but you best believe I will have a camera in my hand during that day.
That's nice. That is beautiful. I think it's natural for photographers to be very critical, particular, maybe a little bit nervous about how the photos are coming out on your special day,
Oh yeah.
But
oh yeah.
You've got a great team behind you, so you have nothing to worry about.
For sure, man.
Thank you so much, Braxton. Have a good day.
Of course, brother. Thank you, and have a good one
too.
Cheers. Yes, sir. Bye.